being formed. You miss the moment your department becomes obsolete. You are like a soldier who is so busy cleaning his rifle that he doesn't notice the enemy has already surrounded the camp. Your hard work hasn't made you diligent. It has made you blind. The people who control your life want you in this state. They want you focused on the grind because a distracted worker is a compliant worker. As long as you are obsessed with your KPIs and your deadlines, you won't have the energy to question why you are doing the work in the first place. You are being kept in a state of perpetual busyness to prevent you from becoming a threat. Look at your relationships. You bring this same work ethic home. You try to earn love. You try to work hard at being a good partner or a good friend by doing everything for everyone. And what do you get? You get taken for granted. You get people who only call you when they need something. You've turned your personal life into a second job where you are also the most exploited employee. It stops now. You have to break the reliability trap. You have to become inconvenient. From this moment on, you will stop being the safety net for other people's failures. When someone misses a deadline, let it stay missed. When a project is heading for a cliff, don't throw your body under the wheels to stop it. Let it crash. You need the world to see what happens when you don't work. You need to remind them that your contribution is a choice, not a given. You're afraid, aren't you? You're afraid that if you stop being the hard worker, they'll realize they don't need you. Good. Let that fear sharpen you. If your only value is the volume of labor you produce, you aren't a player, you're a commodity. And commodities are replaced as soon as a cheaper version comes along. You need to transition from being useful to being essential. A useful person is someone who does the work. An essential person is someone who knows how the work gets done, who knows where the bodies are buried, and who holds the keys to the gate. One is a laborer, the other is a gatekeeper. You have been conditioned to feel guilty for sitting still. You feel like you're wasting time if you aren't producing something. This is the slave mind speaking. The sovereign knows that the most productive thing you can do is observe. You need to spend more time watching the board and less time moving the pieces. You've been told that action is the key to success. Machiavelli tells you that inaction is often a more powerful weapon. By doing nothing, you force others to act. By staying silent, you force others to speak. By refusing to work, you force others to realize their own incompetence. The transition is brutal. It requires you to watch things fail. It requires you to handle the disappointment of people whose opinion shouldn't matter to you anyway. But on the other side of that discomfort is leverage. You are currently a beast of burden. You have the strength, you have the stamina, and you have the discipline. But you lack the intent. You are running in a circle because you're following the path someone else laid out for you. It's time to step off the track. If you've stopped being the fuel and started being the flame, drop this in the comments. I own the machine. The audit is moving deeper. You've seen how your excellence traps you. You've seen how your virtue blinds you. Now, we are going to look at the shadow economy of effort. I am going to show you how the world's most powerful people use your hard work to buy their own freedom, and how you can start doing the same. You've been playing for the wrong team. It's time to switch sides. You are currently acting as a host for a parasite. Think about the visionaries you work for, the leaders you follow, or the charismatic friends who always seem to be moving up while you stay grounded. You've noticed it, haven't you? They don't have your technical skills. They don't have your endurance. They don't even have your attention to detail. Yet they own the company. They get the credit and they keep the profit. You call them lucky or well-connected. The truth is much colder. They have mastered the art of the parasitic exchange. In nature, a parasite doesn't work to find food. It finds a host that is already working and attaches itself. In the world of power, your hard work is the food. These people aren't your mentors or your partners. They are predators who have identified you as a high-yield laborer. They provide you with just enough praise, just enough of a bonus, and just enough vision to keep you producing. They are the ones who understand that the most efficient way to build a skyscraper is to find 1,000 people who take pride in laying bricks and convince them that the privilege of working on the project is their reward. Look at your bank account compared to your output. If you disappeared tomorrow, your leaders would feel a temporary inconvenience while they looked for a new host. But if they disappeared, you would realize you have no idea how to actually navigate the world of power because you've spent all your time staring at the bricks. You have been trained to be a specialist, which is just a polite word for a tool, and tools are never the masters of the house. Let's look at a scenario you live through every week. You spend 40 hours perfecting a report, a design, or a strategy. You hand it over to your superior. They take that work, spend 10 minutes putting their name on the cover page, and present it to the board or the client. They get the handshake, they get the good job, they get the equity, you get a thanks for the support email. You feel that burn in your chest, don't you? That's your ego telling you that you've been robbed, but you haven't been robbed. You've been out-strategized. You traded your intellectual property for security. You were too afraid to take the risk of leading, so you sold your labor to someone who was brave enough to use you. You are the engine, but they are the driver. No one cares how hard the engine is working if the driver is steering it into a wall. And more importantly, when the car arrives at the destination, it's the driver who gets out and walks into the party, while the engine stays in the parking lot to cool down. You've been told that teamwork makes the dream work. That is the most successful propaganda ever invented to keep you compliant. In a team, there is always one person who does the work and one person who takes the credit. If you don't know who is taking the credit on your team, it's because you are the one doing the work. You are financing someone else's lifestyle with your sweat. You are the human battery powering their dream. Machiavelli warned that if you make someone else powerful, you are destined for ruin. By being too useful, you have made your superiors powerful enough to replace you. You have given them the wealth and the time to build a system where you are no longer necessary. Every hour of overtime you put in is a brick in the wall they are building to keep you out of the inner circle. Stop thinking like a good worker. A good worker is a person who solves problems for their master. A sovereign is a person who owns the problems. Think about your current project. Why are you doing it? If your answer is because I was told to, or because I need the money, you are in the parasite's stomach. You are being digested. To break out, you must stop being the laborer and start being the architect of information. Information is the only thing that cannot be easily replaced. Anyone can work hard, anyone can stay late, but not everyone knows the specific hidden weaknesses of the company, the secret desires of the client, or the true state of the competition. The parasite wins because they have more information than you. They know the big picture while you are focused on the pixels. You need to stop looking down at your work and start looking sideways at the players. Who is actually making the decisions? What are they afraid of? What do they need that money can't buy? You have been conditioned to believe that taking credit is selfish or wrong. That is a lie designed to make you easy to rob. In the arena of power, if you don't claim your work, someone else will. And they won't feel guilty about it. They will see it as a management fee. They will tell themselves that they organized you, and therefore the result belongs to them. You are currently experiencing burnout. You tell people you're tired because you're working so hard. No, you're tired because you're being drained. There is a massive difference between the exhaustion of a man building his own house and the exhaustion of a man building a prison for himself. Your soul knows the difference even if your mind is trying to ignore it. You are losing your spark because you know deep down that none of this effort belongs to you. You need to start performing strategic withdrawal. You need to see what happens when the host stops providing. You need to identify exactly which parts of your work are the essential nutrients for the parasite above you. And then you must begin to withhold them. Not all at once, that's a strike and it gets you fired. You do it slowly. You become less efficient. You forget to include the key insights. You make them realize that without your specific input, they look incompetent. You are shifting the power dynamic. You are moving from a service provider to a critical infrastructure. You want to reach the point where the person above you is terrified of losing you, not because you work hard, but because you are the only thing keeping their own reputation alive. You are putting a leash on the person who thought they owned you. This is the path to the sovereign exit. You aren't working to get a promotion. You are working to gather enough information, connections and capital to become the parasite's competitor. You are using their office, their equipment and their clients as a laboratory to build your own empire. You aren't a loyal employee, you are an infiltrator. You feel that? That shift in your perspective. That's the feeling of your work ethic being replaced by tactical intent. You aren't grinding anymore, you are mining. You are extracting value from the system, instead of letting the system extract value from you. The audit is sharpening. You've exposed the traps. You've seen the parasites. Now, we are going to look at the myth of the future. I am going to show you why waiting for your turn is a death sentence, and why the most dangerous thing you can do is have a 5-year plan that relies on anyone but yourself. The machine is starting to creak. It's time to see what happens when you stop being the oil and start being the sand. You are currently a ghost in your own life. You haunt the office, the gym and the kitchen, moving with a frantic energy that produces nothing but exhaustion. You think that by being the hardest worker, you are making your presence felt. You aren't. You are actually making yourself invisible. In the world of power, the man who is always visible and always working is the man who is never feared. You have become a constant. People know exactly what you'll do, how much you'll tolerate, and how hard you'll push. You are a predictable machine, and machines aren't respected. They are utilized until they break. To regain your power, you must master the law of strategic absence. You need to stop being the engine and start being the ghost in the machine. Look at your bank account. It's a direct reflection of how much of your time you are selling. This is the ultimate trap. As long as your income is tied to your hours, you are a prisoner of the clock. You have been taught that time is money, but that's a lie fed to the working class to keep them trading their lives for paper. The truth is that leverage is money. Time is a limited resource, leverage is infinite. If you work 16 hours a day, you have hit your ceiling. You can't work 30 hours. You are capped. You have built a cage where the only way to earn more is to suffer more. Machiavelli understood that the prince does not win by fighting every battle himself. He wins by positioning others to fight for him. You, however, are still in the trenches, swinging your sword at every shadow. You are afraid to let go, because you don't trust the system to work without your hands on it. You have an ego attachment to the grind. You want to be the one who saves the day. You want the hero narrative. But heroes in history books are usually dead. The ones who lived to tell the story were the ones who stayed in the tent, looking at the map. Think about your current productivity apps, your calendars, and your to-do lists. They aren't tools for your freedom. They are logs for your overseers. You are optimizing your own slavery. You are finding ways to squeeze 10% more output out of a body that is already screaming for a break. Why? To what end? So you can get a slightly better performance review from a person who doesn't even know your children's names. You must detach your value from your activity. Right now, if you aren't doing, you feel like you aren't being. You feel guilty when you sit still. That guilt is the voice of your programming. It's the master in your head telling you to get back to the field. You need to cultivate the sovereign pause. You need to learn how to sit in a room and do nothing while the world around you panics. When you stop reacting to every emergency, you gain the one thing your bosses and peers don't have: perspective. Look at the outliers in your industry, the ones who seem to have all the money and all the time. Do they look busy? No, they look relaxed. They look bored. They are bored because they have automated the hard work. They have built systems, hired people, or used technology to do the grinding for them. They didn't get there by working harder. They got there by being ruthless with their time. They realized that every minute spent doing a task is a minute lost to strategy. You've been told that delegating is for the lazy. Machiavelli tells you that delegating is the first step to dominance. If you can pay someone $10 to do a task that frees up an hour of your time and you don't do it, you are saying your life is worth less than $10 an hour. You are insulting yourself every time you do peasant work. You are telling the universe that you are a servant, and the universe will always provide more service for a servant to do. Let's talk about the fear of being replaced. This is why you work so hard. You think that if you aren't the one doing the work, you aren't essential. You are wrong. The most essential person is the one who controls the outcome, not the one who produces it. The person who owns the secret recipe, is more important than the cook. The person who owns the land is more important than the farmer. You have been focused on the skill of the labor, when you should have been focused on the ownership of the result. You need to start ghosting the production line. Start by removing yourself from one small task this week. Don't ask for permission, just stop doing it. See what happens. Most likely, the world won't end. Someone else will pick it up, or it will simply go undone because it wasn't important in the first place. You will feel a surge of anxiety. That's your slave mind panicking. Ignore it. Use that freed hour to think, to plan, to look for the exit. You are currently a high-end servant. You have a nice car, maybe a nice house, but you have zero sovereignty. If you stop working tomorrow, your life collapses. You are one bad quarter away from disaster. This is because you have invested all your energy into your labor and zero energy into your position. You have no moat around your life. The transition from hard worker to sovereign requires you to become a ghost in the system. You must learn how to be the person who makes things happen without being the person who does the things. You need to build a black box around your process. People should see the results you produce, but they should never see the effort. The moment they see you sweating, you lose your magic. You become just another worker, but if the results seem to appear out of nowhere, you are seen as a force of nature. You are seen as someone who has access to a different level of reality. This is the path to the sovereign exit. You are building a version of your life where you are the silent owner, the hidden hand, the ghost in the machine. You are moving from a world of activity to a world of impact. You're starting to see it now, aren't you? The hard work you were so proud of was actually your greatest weakness. It was the noise that kept you from hearing the signal. It was the clutter that kept you from seeing the door. We are approaching the final layer of the audit. You've seen the traps, you've seen the parasites, and you've seen the ghost. Now we are going to look at the final implosion. I am going to show you how to burn down your old work ethic and replace it with a cold autonomy that cannot be taken away. The era of your hustle isn't just dying, it needs to be executed. By now, you should feel a cold weight in your stomach. That isn't guilt. It's the realization that you have been the architect of your own exhaustion. You have spent years building a monument to your work ethic, only to realize it's actually your tombstone. The world didn't trick you. It simply gave you exactly what you asked for, a heavy load and a long road. You've been playing a game of more hours, more effort, more sacrifice. But the real game is who. Who is using whom? Who owns the result? Who gets to sleep while the money grows? If you are still the person doing the doing, you are still the person being done. Machiavelli didn't write for the people in the fields. He wrote for the people in the palace. And the first thing you learn in the palace is that sweat is for the servants. Look at the people you've been trying to impress. Your boss, your neighbors, your social media following. They don't want you to be a king. They want you to be a high performer. They want you to stay in your lane, keep the gears turning, and stay predictable. Every time you grind, you are proving to them that you belong exactly where you are. You are a safe bet. You are a good soldier. But the world doesn't belong to the good soldiers. It belongs to the ones who have the courage to desert the army and start their own. Machiavelli didn't write for the people who wanted to be liked. He wrote for the people who wanted to be free, and freedom has a price. The price is the comfort of your routine. The price is the security of your paycheck. The price is the respect of people who only like you because you're useful to them. If you aren't willing to pay that price, then stop watching. Go back to your desk, pick up your shovel, and don't complain when the person who did half the work gets twice the reward. But if you are still here, it's because something in you has shifted. You've felt the leash snap. You've realized that working hard is the worst thing you can do because it prevents you from working smartly. You are ready to stop being a gear and start being the architect. This transformation isn't a one-time event. It's a daily discipline of saying no to the peasant mind. It's about choosing leverage over effort every single time. If this realization hit you where it hurts, if it exposed the traps you've been living in, then like this video. It's not for me. It's a signal to yourself that you are aligning with a different level of reality. Subscribe to the channel and turn on the notifications. In the world of the Shadow Strike, timing is everything. For those of you who are done playing with toys, Those who want to master the dark psychological architecture we've been discussing, the sovereign circle is open. This is our inner circle. It is where we
Слушай,
strip
каже
away
вид,
the public-facing fluff and
Лескочки
get
вид,
into the
млада
raw tactical
Лесковчанга
execution of
постала
power.
пълнолетний първи
Click the
път
join button
и
below
майка
to cross the
пуща
border from
дизач на
laborer
sastanak
to architect.
sa momkom.
Inside the
Представете,
membership,
слушай,
you get the
Черо,
Machiavellian
nemoj da mu
blueprints,
dozvoliš da te
specific
poljubi.
strategies for navigating workplace warfare, social
Fuck.
leverage, and wealth creation that are too dangerous for the public feed. You get the live audits, where we break down your specific situations and engineer your move to the top. If you stay in the public comments, you're a spectator. If you join the circle, you're a player. Stop lying to yourself. You are not patient. You are not loyal. You're just terrified. You're terrified of the silence that follows when you finally stop being everyone's favorite doormat. You are being eaten alive by your own patience. Look at your phone. There is at least one person in your life who should have been removed already. You kept them because cutting them off felt rude. That hesitation cost you authority. Right now, someone in your life is disrespecting you to your face, and you're nodding along because you are afraid of what cutting them off would say about you. You're afraid of being seen as cold, difficult, heartless. That fear is exactly why they own you. You call it being a good man. Machiavelli would call it surrender. You didn't lose power overnight. You leaked it. One excuse at a time. Every time you tolerate behavior, you should have ended immediately. You teach people how cheap you are. You teach them how far they can go. You teach them you will stay. That's why the disrespect escalates. That's why the same people keep crossing the same lines. Think about the last time that friend mocked you in front of a crowd. You felt that heat in your face, didn't you? You felt the urge to swing, but instead you smiled. You betrayed yourself to keep a connection with someone who doesn't even value you. You are currently funding your own destruction with your own time. You are the host, and you are surrounded by parasites who have indexed every one of your insecurities. They know exactly how much they can spit on you before you'll finally say stop, and they know you never will. That isn't loyalty. That is self-erasure. You've turned your life into a charity for parasites. And you're shocked you feel exhausted, stuck, invisible. You taught the world your boundaries are negotiable. You trained them to test you. You rewarded them for crossing the line. Machiavelli warned that the man who allows others to grow powerful over him engineers his own ruin. Read that again. Every time you tolerate disrespect, disguised as humor, every time you explain a boundary instead of enforcing it, every time you offer one more chance, you are funding your own destruction. You think a conversation will fix it. You think clarity will save you. It won't. If someone respected you, they wouldn't need the explanation. A man who explains his boundaries is asking permission to have them. Think about the one person you should have cut off months ago. The one you keep handling. The one you keep explaining yourself to. They already know you won't leave. And because they know that, they own you. This is where most men fail permanently. They think cutting someone off requires permission. They think silence is rude. They think removal needs justification. It doesn't. The most dangerous mistake a man makes is believing access is free. Access is power, and you've been handing it out to people who are actively eroding your authority. Here is the truth most men avoid. Authority dies the moment tolerance replaces removal. In this video, I'm going to expose the 5 behaviors that must be cut off immediately. No talks, no warnings, no emotional speeches, because the moment you explain, you lose again. Stick around for the 4th behavior, because if you don't end that one tonight, you will never hold authority in any room you enter. If you want to remain liked by everyone while being respected by no one, leave now. But if you're ready to become the most formidable version of yourself, pay attention. The audit starts here. The men who stay become untouchable. The rest remain useful. Behavior 1. Disrespect, disguised as jokes. Listen carefully. This is where authority quietly dies. Look at your face in the mirror. Look at that reflexive smile you give when someone cuts you down in front of others. You call it being calm. You call it thick skin.
1970. godine
It is
preko
neither.
80%
It is
muškaraca je bilo u
submission
braku
wearing
do
a grin.
30. godine.
The
Danas je
moment
to
you
samo
laugh at a joke
23%.
made at your expense, you are not diffusing tension. You are certifying your own demotion. You are announcing to everyone watching that you are safe to diminish, that you will not retaliate, that your dignity has no cost. Power does not disappear loudly. It evaporates in moments like this. Think about the last time it happened. A dinner table, a work meeting, a group chat. One person drops a jab about your failure, your money, your past, your looks. There is a half second of silence. That pause is not awkwardness. It is an audit. Everyone is waiting to see who you are, and you laughed. In that instant, the hierarchy adjusted itself without discussion. The man who made the joke gained status. You lost it, not because the joke was clever, but because you accepted it. Status transfers only when permitted. You permitted it. Disrespect disguised as humor is not accidental. It is the preferred weapon of insecure predators. It allows them to strike while hiding behind plausibility. If you react, they accuse you of being sensitive. If you stay silent or laugh, they advance. Either way, they learn where your spine ends. This is why it never stops at one joke. First it is a comment, then it becomes a nickname, then it becomes part of how people describe you when you are not in the room. Eventually, it becomes your identity, not the one you chose, but the one that was assigned to you because you failed to resist. A man who becomes the punchline is never taken seriously again. He may still be invited, he may still be tolerated, but he will not be respected, he will not be followed. He will be used as contrast, as relief, as proof that someone else is above him. You have been taught a lie, that not taking things personally makes you evolved. In reality, everything in a social hierarchy is personal. If a man can reduce you publicly and remain in your life, he is not your friend, he is your superior. He knows your anger is dormant and your boundaries are theoretical. Every time you let it slide, you are training the room. You are telling them exactly how to treat you. You are telling them there is no penalty for contempt. Once people learn there is no cost, they escalate. They always escalate.
Ja slušam nešto na YouTube pa nešto na
frames disrespect as honesty, as jokes, as tough love. They rely on your fear of tension. They rely on your desire to be seen as easygoing. They use your politeness as camouflage while they carve pieces off your authority. You are paying a tax for being nice. The currency is your self-respect. The moment disrespect becomes authority dies completely. You cannot lead.
Još ček, što se mene tiče mogu i 7 na 7 stavljali protiv botova društva.
Because every time you accept the joke, a part of you knows you betrayed
Dođem
your
da
own
potrošim
position.
ono 50.000 bondova odmah da potrošim ove sve tenkove tamo iz golda.
They endure. They laugh.
Ne možeš onda dođem do golda, odvalim 5 pobjeda, 10 poraza, ma nek se nose vrati, ova sezona je krš. Mogu da igram, ajde ono, igram Neu 3, loše, krenem Neu 2 još gore,
He lets silence expose the offender. When you stop laughing, the joke collapses. When you hold eye contact and say nothing,
Neu 1
the
nije
attention
dostupno, EU
turns back on the
4
one
nije
who spoke.
dostupno.
But you have not done that.
Znači
You
EU2,
have chosen
EU3.
comfort over position,
Biraj,
approval over presence. Ask
50,
yourself a
50.
hard question. How much of your dignity are you
Prilike,
willing
jel?
to trade for acceptance? How many more times will you
na jednom
smile while
serveru
being
te neće
reduced?
ići, a na
How
drugom
long
će...
will you stay at tables where your
Te
role
još
is
manje ići.
entertainment,
Da.
not respect? This behavior is the entry point. It is how people
Ništa
discover
nisam
whether
slago,
you are controllable. If you fail here,
Pa
the
jebi ga,
next
šta što ti
behaviors
randome
become
igraš.
inevitable. Boundaries will be tested. Time will be taken.
Ali bukvalno
Energy
ko
will
random
be
ljudi,
drained.
uzmu
If you
random
recognize
tenka,
this
znači
pattern,
uzmu random
drop this
tenka
in the comments.
koji ničemu
Vault
ne
locked.
služi, razumeš?
Say it to cement
To je
it.
strašno.
Do not explain. Do not justify. Stay, because the next behavior is how they turn your own morals into a cage. Behavior
Random
2.
vozi, onda kad se izgubi,
Boundary
onda
testing.
jebi ga.
The
Onda bude
second
jebi ga.
behavior you
Znaš.
must end without
Jebi ga.
warning is boundary
Evo
testing.
što on uzeo Fave
This is not a
4P da vozi,
misunderstanding. This is not a mistake. It is a calculated invasion.
Kad im dovoljno
Machiavelli
vozi
noted
4
that the
5
prince
mi
who
bude
does
loš,
not
me
secure his
odmah za
borders
srce
is
svako.
already a
Ma
subject.
debole, znači, ja gledam...
There is someone in your life who hears your no as noise. They treat it like a suggestion, like a starting offer, like something meant to be
Gledam i ne
negotiated
vjerujem na
down.
to.
The moment that happens, they are no
Plače mi
longer a peer. They are
tuguje.
testing to see if you have a backbone, or just a collection of excuses.
Ali bukvalno.
Think about the last time you set a limit. You told someone you couldn't do a
Pazi,
favor.
pilot, još uvijek nisam mrdno od one prve nedelje. Srebro od E. Znači ja sam...
Dobro.
Igramo sada, sad kažemo ovo je 5. nedjelja, jel ček. Da, sad ću 5. nedjelja. Znači od prve nedjelje od kako je došao on sad, ja si dalje muvam u srebro E.
You are admitting it is open for
Ti vidi.
debate. You are handing them a map of the wall and inviting them to look for weak spots. You say you are busy. They suggest a
Sve ovo,
workaround. You say you are tired.
meni
They
pa da,
minimize it.
lepo sam rekao,
You say no.
50.000, 48.000 bondova bi
They are
mi
not
trebalo
trying
za
to
ova 3
understand
tank,
you.
LTC
They
2,
are trying to
114
bypass
SPA 2
you.
i Charlemagne.
Boundary testing is slow, methodical
Ali ništa,
pressure.
sačuvat ćemo
They
bondove za
arrive
idući.
late to see if you wait. They forget rules you already stated.
Pa jedno ako mi sad
to
ne
see
da
if
jedno
you
50
repeat
pobjeda,
yourself.
jel?
They
Bilo
cross
bi
lines
ono.
Ne,
casually
ne.
and watch your face.
Pa to ti
If you
kažem.
respond softly, they learn something important. They learn you fear conflict more than
Što nije realno.
disrespect. And once someone knows that, they own
Vi
it.
si rele video
They
50
accidentally cross a line just
poraza.
to watch your reaction. If you respond with a soft, please don't do that, they learn that your walls are made of paper. They realize that you are more afraid of the conflict than you are of the disrespect. They use your own desire to be reasonable against you. They know that as long as they keep the pressure on, you will eventually fold just to make the tension go away. In the Machiavellian world, a boundary that requires an explanation is not a
Meni sad treba
boundary.
pilot
It is an invitation.
350
When you
poena.
justify your no,
No, zašto?
you are essentially saying, I
Za
want to say no,
zlato.
but I need you to give me
Znači da
permission.
meni
You are putting the power back into their
treba
hands.
10
This is
pobjeda
why
po
they keep
30
pushing.
poena.
They see the hesitation in your
ne
voice.
znam.
They see the guilt in your eyes.
Ujebote.
They know that if they can
Za
make
30
you
mora
feel
se ozme
guilty
i
for
tu.
having a life of your own, they
Realno,
can own
20
every
poena
second
puta.
of it. Look at your phone right now. Look at the messages from people who ignore your do not disturb. Look at the people who ask for just one more thing after you've already given everything. They are testing ownership. They want to see how much of your life they can claim before you snap. And because you are a good
18
man,
pobjeda
you
od po
think that being
20.
patient will earn
Ujebe.
their respect. It won't. It will only earn their contempt. No one respects a land with no fences.
Šta?
They just walk all
Reći,
over it
pa
until
šta
the
mi
grass is
RNG
dead.
da?
This
Vidi.
behavior trains you to be a servant in your own house. It forces you into a state of constant justification.
Riko
You
shit.
start preempting their pushback. You start thinking, how
Pišem
can I say
današnji
no
datum,
without making
današnji
them
datum je
mad?
9.
The second that thought enters your mind, they have won. They are living rent-free in your decision-making center. They have successfully installed a compliance chip in your brain. You are no longer making choices based on your mission. You are making choices based on their potential reaction. A commander does not negotiate borders. When a line is crossed, the response is not a speech, it is a consequence. But you have been giving speeches for years. You have been explaining yourself to people who benefit from ignoring you. You are using logic where leverage is being used against you. If you do not end this behavior without warning, you will wake up 5 years from now and realize you don't recognize your own life. You will be a composite of everyone else's demands. You will have plenty of friends and a happy family, but you will be a hollow shell because you never had the courage to be difficult. Being difficult is the price of being free. If you aren't willing to be the villain for 5 minutes to protect your peace, you will be a victim for a lifetime. Stop the explanations. Stop the apologies. A boundary is a wall, not a conversation. The moment they push, the temperature should drop to 0. They should feel the cold wind of your withdrawal immediately. They should realize that pushing against you is like pushing against a mountain. It is a waste of their time and a threat to their ego. The first behavior exposed, who laughs at you. This one exposes who tries to own you. But the next behavior is worse. Because once your boundaries are weak, people stop pushing, they start dumping. They turn you into a container for their problems, their chaos, their failures. They drain you quietly while calling it connection. If you don't see that one clearly, everything you build will collapse from the inside out. Behavior 3.
Dobio Prokohorovku za taj pa 71 pa punim. Vidi ga šopak, vidi ga šopak, a mora onda izađe sa kanopenerom. Taj kill krene sa dvostrukom i da mi se popreči. Znači, mora.
Ko? Tvoj njihov.
A moj.
A ja to sad si očekivao.
In reality, you are being used as a waste
Posred
management
pruge,
system for
posred.
lives they refuse to fix. Look back at your week. Think about that one person who only reaches out when their world is collapsing. They never ask how your mission is moving. They don't offer value. They simply arrive, unload a mountain of toxic emotional garbage and leave. You hang up feeling heavy, distracted, dull. That was not a conversation. That was extraction. They did not come to you for solutions. They came for regulation. They used your attention as a drug to stabilize themselves so they could continue avoiding responsibility. While you were being there, your focus was stolen, your plans stalled. They didn't come to you for a solution. They came to you for a hit of your energy. They used your focus as a fuel source to regulate their own dysfunction. While you were holding space for them, your own empire was neglected. You traded your peak cognitive performance for someone else's temporary relief. This is how ambition dies quietly. Emotional dumping is a direct theft of your most valuable asset, your edge. To build anything meaningful, you need a clean internal environment. Focus, silence, direction. Emotional dumpers contaminate all three. They force you to process their reality instead of building your own. They drag you into old grudges, recycled failures, endless what-ifs. None of it moves forward. None of it resolves. It just repeats. That repetition is the tell. People who dump emotionally do not want to improve. They want to be witnessed in their suffering. Being broken gives them identity, and your empathy keeps that identity alive. Every time you listen without limit, you reward stagnation. You teach them that chaos is a valid currency to buy your time. They call you strong because strength is what they are siphoning. Machiavelli understood this danger clearly. A leader who absorbs instability eventually becomes unstable. You cannot carry other people's emotional weight and still climb. Most men do not fail because they lack discipline. They fail because they carry too many passengers who refuse to walk. Watch what happens when you stop being available. They get offended. They call you cold. They say you have changed. Those words are not insults. They are diagnostics. They reveal that your value to them was access, not respect. If the relationship collapses the moment you protect your focus, it was never a relationship. It was a dependency. This is why emotional dumping always follows boundary testing. Once someone knows they can push your limits, they start unloading their lives onto you. And once you accept that role, you stop being seen as a man with direction and start being treated as infrastructure. Useful, stable, replaceable. A sovereign man does not become a container for other people's dysfunction. He does not absorb chaos for free. He understands a simple law. If someone repeatedly brings you problems without movement towards solutions, they are not seeking help. They are seeking somewhere to park their failure. You must end this without an explanation. The moment they start the dump, you must cut the feed. You don't need to tell them they are toxic. You don't need to explain that you are protecting your energy. That's more explaining, which we've already established is a leak. You simply become unavailable. You stop being the fixer. You let them sit in their own filth until they find a new garbage can to dump it in. When you stop providing the ear, they will stop providing the drama. They will move on to someone weaker, and you will finally have the silence required to hear your own ambition. If you feel relief at the thought of not carrying other people's problems anymore, that is your signal. You are not heartless, you are overloaded. We have dismantled the man who laughs at himself. We have dismantled the man who negotiates his own borders. Now we have dismantled the man who carries everyone else's weight. But the next behavior is more dangerous than all of them, because it does not attack you when you are weak. It attacks you when you are rising, and if you do not see it clearly, it will be the one that pulls you back down just as you gain momentum. Behavior 4. Conditional loyalty. This is the behavior that kills momentum without ever raising its voice. Conditional loyalty is the loyalty of the anchor. These are the people who are your biggest supporters, only as long as you stay at their level. They celebrate your authenticity when you are struggling, but they start questioning your ego the moment you begin to win. They don't want you to fail. They just don't want you to surpass them. Watch the pattern carefully. When you were complaining about life, they listened. When you were stuck, they related. When you are
Što je
uncertain,
bilo
they felt
špricnuti
safe around you. But the
758,
moment
a?
you started waking earlier,
Yeah.
training harder, thinking
Majke mu ga.
sharper, or earning more, the language
Pa bilo bi lepo da me
changed.
neko suporta,
You've
bilo bi
changed.
lepo.
You're doing too much. Don't forget where
Idi
you came
E5
from.
u 3 kurs.
Those are not observations. Those are containment
Mislim, vozim
tactics.
heavy tek, bilo
Conditional
bi lepo da
loyalty
nešto blokira.
exists to keep you predictable. The people practicing it are not evil. They are afraid. Your growth threatens the hierarchy they quietly built
Dobro,
in their
blokirao
own
sam, evo
mind.
2 puta
When you
blokirao.
rise,
C sa
you
63
become
gold
a mirror,
i od E5
and
gold.
most people would rather shatter the mirror
I to da se
than
veze
confront
55
what it
strti.
reflects.
I tada
This
se
is
on
why the
trti za
sabotage is
poziciju,
subtle.
a ja s
They
estotkom
joke
ne moram
about your
ništa, brate.
discipline. They frame your ambition as obsession.
A evo
They
ti
call your
pozicija,
standards
brate, evo ti
arrogance.
pozicija. Znači,
These
ako se
people love
trpamo
the
ko
old
poziciju
you,
7 na 7,
because the old
daj
you
bre da
was
se
safe.
sklonim, evo ti
The
pozicija.
old you didn't make them look at their own wasted potential.
Sad će
They
on tu
will
da
bring
se
up your
kosi, sad
past
će on tu
mistakes
nešto.
to remind you of who you really are.
A sad viče
They
oči,
are
kad sam
trying to
se
anchor
odmakao
you
od
to a
njega,
version of
viče
yourself
ja
that
need
is
help.
already dead.
A,
This behavior
need
is especially
help, jel.
dangerous because it comes from
ja
proximity.
kad dođe izađe, onda on
Friends,
se kosi ispred
family,
mene.
long-term peers,
Aj, molim te.
people with history. They know your old
To ne volim.
stories. They know your past mistakes.
Jer je petica
and
digao
they
mu
will
donju
use
ploču.
those memories as chains. They remind you who you used to be right
A
when
sad
you were
sam igrao
trying
ovo
to become
estotko,
someone
ova
new.
estotko mi
That is
buša.
not
znači.
loyalty. That is leverage.
Isto.
Conditional
Pa ja.
loyalists are small
Zato nemoj
time
da uzmaš
kings.
više.
They rule tiny rooms and fragile hierarchies. As long as you stay below them, the crown stays on
Sad
their
pogodi
head.
mog,
The
taj
moment
5
you
heavy-a
outgrow the
u
room, the crown
u
falls.
telo.
Since
Punim
they lack the
14
discipline
i
to
po
rise with
sekundi,
you,
primim
their only
granatu
move is to convince
i
you that
da
rising is
uzvratim
wrong.
granatu.
They call
Ne,
it humility. They call it
ne,
balance.
da.
They call it staying grounded. What it really
Hajde,
is
Hellcatu,
fear
idi,
dressed as
Bog
wisdom.
te mazo,
If
šta
you
si
listen
tu
to
se
them, you
nabio?
will begin to self-censor.
Kakav
You will
kreten.
downplay your wins.
Izašao sam,
You will
primio
delay
šut,
your
da mu
move.
uzvratim
You
šut,
will
on
hesitate
meni
before
moj
sharing
blokira
progress.
granatu. Ma to
You
je
will
to.
start choosing comfort over
Daj,
ascent.
znači.
And
Jebo
eventually,
sam vam
without
mater, i on
realizing
ima
it,
2
you will
zvezdice na
stop
taj 5
climbing
heavy.
altogether. This is how men with potential die
A
quietly.
sad,
You keep the anchors because you fear isolation. You
kako
tell
da ne
yourself
izgubim
that
bitku?
loyalty
Ovaj
means
se
staying
trpa oko
connected.
pozicije, kosi
You
se ispred
confuse
mene,
shared
krene na
history
drugu
with shared
stranu,
direction.
moj mi blokira
But history
granate,
does
moj
not
mi
equal
saigrač blokira
allegiance.
granate.
Some
A
people
da,
stay
znači.
close not because they want you to win, but because they want access to
Me
the
počeš na
version of
svaku
you they can
prethodnu
manage.
partiju,
A
zadnje
commander understands this law
par
clearly.
nedelja.
Loyalty is only
Odigram
valuable
prvu
when it is
bitku,
loyal
dobijem
to the
ekstra
mission.
poene
If
i onda
someone
imam onda
supports who
5-6
you
poraza.
were but resists who you are becoming, they are not neutral. They are a liability. You do not explain
I
this
don't give a
cut.
fuck.
You do not announce it. You do not
Znači,
debate it.
Znaš
You
koliko me
simply
zaboli?
stop adjusting
Znači,
your
uzmi tank,
trajectory
znači
to
koji
preserve
znaš
their
najbolje
comfort.
igrat, igraj sa
You
njim i
stop shrinking.
ututi.
You
Kakav je
stop
to?
justifying. You stop
To ti je
translating
samo
your
randome,
ambition
znači ako
into
imaš
language
dobiješ
they can
idiote
tolerate.
protiv sebe i
And
možeš
then
to
you
igrat,
watch.
inače svako
Some
buši ga.
adapt, some disappear, some resent you quietly. That
I sad mi
outcome
buši,
tells
ovaj
you
se
everything
trpa
you
ispred
need
mene
to
za
know.
poziciju.
If your growth
Kad,
costs you a
kad odem s te
relationship,
pozicije,
that
znači ja treba da
relationship was
izađem
already
primim šut,
costing
a on
you
treba
your
da
future.
zadaje taj
Look back
šut. I onda
now.
kad odem od
You
njega,
can
onda
see the
viče help,
system
help.
forming. The jester loses
Kontam, znači u
respect.
čemu je problem?
The negotiator loses control.
A nije problem
The
što sam ja
garbage
bio na
can
poziciji,
loses
on
focus.
dođe i
The anchor kills
strpa se s
momentum.
onim vezom
All
55,
four
pusti
behaviors
njega
serve
da
one
bude to
function.
njegova
They
pozicija.
keep you accessible,
Jer ja neću da, ja mogu samo
and
da
below
izađem,
your potential.
da primim
There is
damage,
one
kakav je
behavior left.
E100, a ne mogu
It
i
is
da
the
dođem
most
i da
refined,
žvajzem
the most
granatu, jer
confusing,
čim
the one
opuca
that allows
njihov
all the others
E5,
to
onda
return
VZ
if left
55 trči
untouched.
da
It does not
opuca
attack
što pre,
directly.
razumeš?
It
Ne znam
ja-
o čemu,
destabilizes
slušaj,
quietly.
slušaj.
If you miss the
Smiri
final
se ba,
behavior,
frajer,
you will
znači,
understand the trap. but never
Taka ti igra debilna I gotovo, pa onda nemoj letat, nemoj pomagat nikome, nego budi onako lagano I
Nisam ja njemu ni pomogao, on je došao meni da pomogne I vidim kako mi je pomogao.
This is the behavior that keeps all the others alive. This is the master system of control. Inconsistent respect is not confusion. It is control refined to its most effective form. It is used by ghosts, narcissists, and high-functioning manipulators who understand one brutal truth about human psychology. A man who is confused is a man who can be owned.
47, brate, ovo je kupljen nalog. Ili je boostovan, 47,55 win rate, a ima dve markice na taj 5.000.
This is not mood.
Dve markice, 47,55 win rate, dve markice.
Machiavelli understood that while fear is safer than love, confusion is more useful than both. Fear makes men resist. Love makes men loyal. Confusion makes men chase. Inconsistent respect turns you into a gambler. When they are warm, they make you feel chosen, seen, elevated. You feel like you finally matter. Then the temperature drops. Messages go unanswered. Tone changes.
Evo, na primjer, bačata 25 ima 600 bitaka, nema ni prvu markicu, o tome se radi.
What did I do wrong? What did I say? How do I fix this? That internal spiral is the leash tightening.
400 bitka sa bačatom 9-kom ništa. 800 bitaka sa 13.90 ima 70% markica.
You become an anxious pursuer, trying to earn back the version of them that treated you well. This is exactly where they want you. Confusion is the ultimate tool of dominance because it forces your attention outward while your foundation collapses inward. You are no longer grounded, you are reactive, and reactive men are controllable. Inconsistent respect is the thread connecting every behavior we have exposed. The jester insults you and treats you well, just enough to keep you laughing. The boundary tester pushes, then retreats, just enough to keep you negotiating.
Rekao, sad se trpa napred, blokira moje granate, sad će onda napravi naš 5000, napravi 2000 damage.
The anchor supports you, then questions you, just enough to slow your rise. This behavior is the fog that keeps you from seeing the system. Stability is the foundation of sovereignty. Without it, you cannot think clearly. Without it, you cannot lead. By keeping you emotionally unbalanced, they ensure you never stand fully upright in your own power. Understand this clearly. The inconsistency is not accidental. It is strategic. If they were cold all the time, you would leave. If they were warm all the time, they would lose leverage. By alternating, they create addiction. You are not attached to them. You are addicted to the relief of warmth after withdrawal. Your nervous system begins to crave the approval hit. You accept less. You tolerate more. You stay longer than you should. You become a lab rat pressing a lever for validation. At that point, your dignity is no longer yours. It is currency. Machiavelli warned that men willingly change masters, hoping to better themselves. But here, you are not even changing masters. You are begging the same one to be kind again. Every time you chase an inconsistent person, you are telling them your peace depends on their mood. That is total submission. A man whose internal state can be activated or deactivated by someone else's silence is not free. He is manageable. He is readable. He is owned. Now see the full system. Disrespect disguised as jokes tests your status. Boundary testing probes your ownership. Emotional dumping drains your focus. Conditional loyalty sabotages your growth. Inconsistent respect keeps you in the fog, so you never connect the dots. They are not separate problems. They are a coordinated collapse. If you tolerate one, you invite them all. The people doing this do not respect your patience. They exploit it. They do not admire your kindness. They feed on it. They are not confused by your understanding. They are amused by it. The sovereign response is
Samo je
not
došao napred
analysis.
da
It is
drpi
removal.
kila. Kad treba da
The
se
commander
spusti
does not ask
tank na
why the
low
respect
HP,
changed.
to...
He does not request a conversation. He does not negotiate stability. He
Da ne
observes the
razumijem, ali...
pattern. and withdraws
Što onda
permanently.
drpi
Consistency
da
is the minimum price
te
of
kilove i
access.
ostalo.
If the respect is not stable,
Večera
it is
se
not
napijam
respect.
damage i tako
It is a
to.
tactic. Silence
Ću
is not
dati da izgubim.
avoidance. It is the final no.
Dodoše poeni.
Distance is not cruelty. It is filtration. Absence is not weakness. It is authority reclaimed. Your life should become
Jednako lovi
quieter
da samo da
after this,
završi, kako se
colder,
zove.
emptier, and in that
Nedeljne
emptiness,
misije i da
clarity
kaže to je to.
returns. You now see the 5 leaks that have been draining your life. You have the system. You have the map. The question is no longer why this keeps happening. The question is why you allowed it for so long. If you recognized the fog and you are ending the pursuit today, drop this in the comments. I can't tolerate anymore. Now listen carefully. Everything you just heard is surface level power. It's what survives the algorithm. It's what can be said publicly. The deeper rules cannot. Inside the membership, we go where YouTube does not allow me to go. We break down how power actually shifts in real social dynamics.
Mršu pičku materinu, sad će 430 tu da me obilazi. Na super konkurent.
How to rebuild authority after years of being readable. This is not content. It is instruction. The membership is not for everyone. It is for men who are done being explained, tested, drained, and managed. If you are ready to stop reacting and start positioning, join the membership now. That is where the real architecture is built. Subscribe to this channel if you are done being managed and ready to be sovereign. The audit is complete. The vault is sealed. Stay in the fog or step into command. The choice is yours.
Za moment.
The world has lied to you. It told you that if you were good, you would be rewarded. It told you that if you were patient, your turn would come. It told you that kindness is the ultimate social currency. But as you sit there today looking at your bank account, your stagnant career, or the dry, disrespectful tone of the people in your life, you know the truth. You aren't being kind. You're being predictable. The world doesn't look at your constant availability and see a good man. It looks at you and sees a man who has no other move. Right now, your patience, your generosity, your availability are not being read as virtue. They are being audited as a lack of options. Machiavelli warned that the man who tries to be good among the wicked will be destroyed, not attacked, destroyed quietly. Think about the last time you helped someone who wouldn't even rearrange their schedule for you. That friend who only calls when they need something. You answer every time. When you need them, they disappear. You told yourself you were building goodwill. You weren't. You've trained them to see your time as unlimited, your presence as guaranteed, and your absence as impossible. And anything that is guaranteed is never respected. It is consumed. Machiavelli said, "It is safer to be feared than loved." Not because fear is cruel, but because love is fragile. It breaks the moment it stops being useful. By being consistently kind, you removed all risk. You became safe. And in power dynamics, safe is another word for disposable. They don't respect your help because they know you don't have the nerve to withhold it. They don't value your presence because they never had to fear your absence. You aren't choosing peace. You are submitting to a hierarchy that already ranked you at the bottom. That's the part most men refuse to face. Kindness without the capacity for violence is not morality, it's exposure. If you cannot walk away, your generosity is not a choice, it is a survival strategy. Machiavelli warned that the man who insists on being good among the ruthless doesn't become respected. He becomes useful, and useful men get drained, not rewarded. You think you are being understanding. They think you are safe to use. That is why you are ignored in meetings. That is why you are taken for granted in relationships. That is why people disappear. The moment you stop giving, you aren't a saint. You are a placeholder. Look at your life. You reply fast. You forgive fast. You explain yourself. You stay available. You think
Bože
this
moj,
makes you
Prokohorovka
decent. It
moćna.
makes you manageable. People treat your boundaries like suggestions because you taught them they can wait you out. Your silence eventually turns into effort. Your patience eventually turns into submission. Today, that ends. We execute the Machiavellian pivot, the shift where your kindness stops being seen as a lack of options and starts being read as a calculated choice. In the next minutes, I'm going to expose why people immediately sense when your kindness comes from weakness, the exact signals that mark you as harmless, and how to flip the perception without explaining yourself, arguing, or raising your voice. There are 3 behaviors you're displaying right now that quietly erase your authority. If they don't stop, everything else you build will keep getting undermined. Most men will click away here, because killing the nice guy feels like dying. But if you're ready to stop being tolerated and start being respected, stay. This is where the pivot begins. You think you are building a reputation as a reliable man. Machiavelli would look at you and see a man building his own cage. In the real world, not the polite fantasy you were trained to believe in, kindness is not a virtue unless it is backed by the capacity for absolute coldness. If you cannot be cruel, your kindness is not a choice. It is a biological necessity. It is the only strategy a weak man has to avoid friction. And the world does not reward necessity. It
Jebo
exploits it.
majku
Look at your
ukrajinsku,
daily behavior,
sretnu.
not your intentions.
Či
Intentions
Nije
are
sve,
opalio je
nije
irrelevant.
skan
sretan, ne
openerom.
Behavior is law. You answer messages
Skan
immediately.
openerom je opalio
Even when you are
dvostruku
busy,
granatu
you stay
i
polite when someone
na super
disrespects your time.
konkurentnom ispod
You
kupole
tolerate
obadve.
tone you would
Da.
never use on someone
Pa
you
šta si
respect.
očekivao?
You say yes when
To
your
je tako
body is
bez
already saying
retardiran
no.
tank
You tell
znači
yourself this makes
da je
you
još uvijek
dependable.
dobar.
What it
Odličan.
actually
Čak
does
pored ovoga
is
novog
broadcast
Arisa.
something very specific. It tells everyone around you that you absorb
Ja
pressure
ne znam što igram
instead of
Prokohorovku,
redirecting
Bog
it.
te.
It tells them there is no consequence for pushing you. It tells them your boundaries are negotiable, temporary, and ultimately
Da, mene
fictional.
nabije u ovu kako
Machiavelli
sastav
understood
gornje i
this
donje
centuries
ploče i
ago. A man who insists on being
i
good among the
autopenetracija, meni nema
ruthless
ko
is
da
not
pomogne.
rewarded for his virtue. He is quietly destroyed, not attacked, not confronted, destroyed through erosion. Think about your work life. That
Ma
coworker
da ide u
who asks
pičku
for one more
materinu,
favor
trojca
right
vas
as
se
you
jedan,
are
ide u
about to
pičku
leave.
materinu.
You say yes, not because you want to help, but because you are
Ne
afraid
znam
of
sam
the
da-
awkwardness of saying no. You call it teamwork.
O,
What you
kako
are
se bre
actually
zove.
doing is teaching them that your time
Mi je
has
tank
no
napravljen od
cost.
platine,
And if
brate,
your
mili,
time has no
ne bi ga
cost,
volko
your
izdržao.
presence has no value. Respect is not granted to those who comply. It is
Ora,
granted to those
random
who can
tankovi,
withdraw.
opet random
You
tankovi.
cannot buy
Jebu
respect
ga pa-
with submission.
Jebu ga jak
You can
pancer
only rent
na
approval.
rudnik.
And
Uzme
approval is
rudnika.
revoked
Slušaj,
the
slušaj,
moment
slušaj.
it becomes
Ko te jebe
inconvenient.
kad neš da nađeš
You are
plan koji
currently
to
suffering
radi?
from social overavailability. You are the man who always picks up
Šta
the
se
phone
žališ?
on
Šta
the
se
first
žališ, kaj
ring.
kurac?
You
Nemoj
are
se
the man
žaliti.
who
Znači,
always
trošiš mi
replies
vrijeme,
to the
žališ
text
se bez
within
veze.
30 seconds.
Nađi klan
Even
koji
when
to
the
radi,
person on the
nađi
other
6
end
majmuna,
takes
još
6
te isto
hours to get
rade
back
i
to you.
odradite
You think
to i
you're
čao
being
zdravo.
attentive. To the person on the other side,
Nemoj me
you
da
look
sratu
desperate.
ovdje, znači,
You are signaling
trošiš,
that
znači,
you have
moje
nothing
vrijeme i
better to
energiju.
do. You are
Glupostima.
signaling that your
Ja
internal
jebote,
world is so empty that
randomi,
their breadcrumb of attention is the
Igraj s
highlight of your
randomima i
day.
uživaj, znači,
By
igraj,
being
znači, ako možeš,
constantly accessible,
ako
you have
znaš
stripped
igrat,
yourself
igraj,
of
znači,
mystery.
igraj je
By
Ram
stripping
Pantera,
yourself of
onoga,
mystery,
Lighta
you have
desetku,
stripped yourself of leverage. You
njemačkoga,
have turned
eno,
yourself into a
Daki
commodity.
igra ga, znači,
And
jebe mater
commodities
svima
are
sa
always
njim.
traded at the lowest
A je
Izvoli
tako bio
uradi
i
to.
Orzanel igri
This is why
igru
you are
Fave
taken for
4-5
granted.
pravi po 5-6
This is
hiljada
why you are
damage pa
overlooked. This
pa
is
nešto u
why
mom
people
randomu
feel
ne pravi ljudi
comfortable
po 5-6
disappointing
hiljada
you.
damage.
You have made
Zato što u tvom
disappointment
randomu ne
safe.
igraju oni.
Let's look at your relationships. You wonder why the woman you're interested in,
Mislim da
or
nikad u
even the
životu nisam
partner
uzeo
you're
lakog
with,
tenka
seems to have
u
lost
7
that
na 7.
spark of admiration for you. It's because you've become a safe bet.
Vozio sam
You've become the
svakakve
man who
tenkove,
is too nice to
lake
leave.
tenkove
You
i
provide
one
a safety net of kindness
Grileta
that allows them to
4005
explore
nikad
their own
nisam vozio.
boundaries without ever fearing the consequence of losing you. You have removed the dread of loss. Machiavelli warned that it is safer to be feared than loved, not because fear is cruel, but because love is fragile. Love is held together by obligation, and obligation collapses the moment it stops serving interest. Fear is held together by consequence, and consequence does not require emotion to function. By being consistently kind without the ability to withdraw, you eliminated consequence. You made yourself a playground, a safety net, a background presence. You became the man who is too nice to lose and therefore never truly chosen. You listen, you support, you understand. And while you are busy being emotionally available, your authority is being liquidated. You sit there while someone vents about their life, their chaos, their failures, and you tell yourself you are being strong. What you are actually doing is financing their comfort with your focus. They leave lighter, you stay heavier, and they come
Ja
back
gađam
again
super konferera
because you are reliable
ispod
in the
kupole
worst
nešto ne
possible
ide.
way. This is not generosity.
To
This
mene
is
ne.
Ne ide
extraction.
RNG kaže,
Now
neće
look at the
dati
way
ništa
you
i
handle
doviđenja.
disrespect in public. Someone makes a joke at your expense. The room
Kako mi
pauses.
ubaci
Everyone is
oba
watching.
dve granate,
And you
znaš.
laugh. You smile. You play
Vidi
it
ovo.
off. You think you are showing confidence. You are not. You are signing a contract. You are declaring yourself the punchline. You are authorizing them to climb by stepping on you. You are telling the group that your status is flexible downward but never upward. Every time you let a small disrespect slide in the name of kindness, you are handing bricks to the person building a wall between you and power. This is the execution of the self. You have been conditioned since childhood to be agreeable. You were taught that being good meant being easy to handle. You are still operating like a child seeking approval.